Since the dawn of time, philosophers have argued about whether a keyboard and mouse is better than a standard controller for playing games. But, as is usually the case with made-up things that didn't happen, they were asking the wrong questions. What they should have been asking themselves is, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with a Guitar Hero controller? Before getting into the game proper, here's a brief explanation about how the Guitar Hero controller works with Fallout New Vegas. Well, I use this program here, called X360CE, which allows you to remap any controller, to work as an Xbox 360 controller to do various things. So, I'll run through what all the things on this controller do. The green button moves the right analog stick to the left. The red button acts as the right trigger. The yellow button moves the right analog stick to the right. The blue button acts as the A button. Orange, of course, clicks the left stick. What else would it do? This little flipper here moves forwards and backwards, depending on which way I push it. This little bar here doesn't do anything. It might if I put more effort into it, but I'm not. This is just a D-pad, it does D-pad things. This is the start button. And this, of course, is the B button. After getting up from Doc Mitchell's bed, my first task was to use the Vigor Tester. Getting to it was easy. Activating it was a different beast altogether, because everything is a mess. The game says left trigger, but the left trigger doesn't exist, and it should be the A button to begin with. I reconfigured the game's controller settings to make it work, and almost started assigning special points. You can use the right trigger to move through the attributes. So I quit the game, momentarily remapped another button, and could finally start assigning points. My only objective is to beat the game. I put 10 points into luck to boost all skills, 10 in intelligence to get more skill points when leveling up, 7 in endurance to take some damage, and left most of the rest at 4. I then went over to the couch to try and sit down. I tried, but there was another problem. I can't actually look down or crouch. I spent a little while walking around the couch to see if there was some way I could reach it. There wasn't, and it dawned on me what a horrible idea this was. For the second time in 10 minutes, I quit the game and remapped some buttons. Because reloading wasn't something I was at all concerned about, I went ahead and made the orange button work overtime without any extra pay by making it click in the left stick and press X. I may or may not have had to look up the controls because I'm rather dim. It worked like a charm and was a waste of time because I found a spot where I could sit on the couch without crouching. We're off to a phenomenal start. The skills I chose were speech, for obvious reasons, medicine, so stim packs will be as effective as possible, and melee weapons, because I had a feeling that trying to aim a gun with a Guitar Hero controller would be a worthless endeavor. The traits I chose were skilled, to boost all skills, and good-natured, to provide yet another boost to speech and other non-violent skills. After 25 minutes, I was finally ready to leave Doc Mitchell's house. I took a few things from his house, the things that I could look at, like stim packs from his dead wife's chemistry set and a hat. Then I accidentally enabled hardcore mode, because of course I did. Once I'd made sure I didn't just have a heart attack, I disabled hardcore mode and went out into the wasteland for the first time. My first stop was Chet's general store to sell some things and buy some stuff. Here, I found yet another fun little side effect of using the Guitar Hero controller. The left trigger moves to your own inventory, but I still don't have a left trigger, nor do I have it mapped to any button on the guitar, so I can't sell anything. For the time being, I'm stuck with what I have at the start of the game. While I do a few things around Good Springs, let me explain something about the Guitar Hero controller. It sucks. There are a lot of things I can't do. I can't jump, I can't go into third person, I can't strafe left or right, I can't look up or down, I can't aim down the sights of a gun, I can't block attacks, I can't wait in a location, I can't pick up items, like when you fling them all over the place, I can't quick save or quick load, I can't use VATS, and those are just the basic control things. You already saw in Chet's shop another thing I can't do. It's just such a pain in the ass to play it this way. But I'm doing it anyway. Also, one more thing. About an hour into the game, I started recording a face cam to show that I'm using the controller. I had it pointed at both me and the screen for some reason for a little while, but the majority has a pretty standard face cam view, so you'll see it shift at some point. After all that explanation, I can put on my best frown and leave Good Springs in the dust. I followed the road for a while, discovered Gene skydiving, ignored a few powder gardeners, and found a few animals to kill. The great thing about melee weapons is that for the most part, you don't have to have your crosshair directly on your target. If you're looking in their direction and they're within range, you can hit them with your melee weapon. Next to the dead bodies I'd made, I found a doctor's bag, but I couldn't finagle myself enough to let me grab it. I continued heading northeast along the road, eventually switched to the much more adult choo-choo tracks, tried to pickpocket Snuffles, fixed his leg, and got the rundown from Chomp Lewis about the Deathclaws up ahead. I made a backup save, crouched, and began sneaking through Deathclaw territory. There was really no convenient way to get through this. Closing your eyes and power walking as fast as you can won't work because tripping over a pebble will slow you down enough to turn you into live bait. I stayed low to the ground, stopping every so often to take a look around to make sure I wasn't drawing the attention of any Deathclaws, pressed onward a bit, and let the cycle repeat. I eventually found myself atop Neil's shack, with the world looking oddly devoid of color for some reason. I'm still not sure entirely why it happened. A Deathclaw gave me a solid 2 spanks, I barely escaped with my life, took to the rocky cliffs to regain my composure, kept going, and was eventually out of the danger zone, at least for the moment, as I arrived at RepCon headquarters. I stopped for a moment and discovered yet another thing that doesn't work: fast travel. I can only move the crosshair left or right. By this point, I was numb to it all, and welcomed the extra pain. For the moment though, that's not an issue because I'm heading north to the Strip. Outside Camp McCarran, I witnessed a brief firefight between NCR and a few fiends. I thought it'd be nice to pick up a few new weapons from the dead fiends, but when you can't look down, you can't loot a dead body. I wasn't overly concerned with the fiend bodies. I was more concerned with the NCR soldiers. My plan was to kill an NCR soldier so I could wear their armor and disguise myself as a soldier to take the monorail inside the Strip. Once I realized that idea wasn't gonna work, I went east and killed the couple that runs the Grub and Slug. Chasing after an opponent is a problem when your unequipped weapon button is the same as the button that makes you crouch. They both died though. I continued my journey to the north, discovered a few locations for some easy experience, and found the remains of a massacre. There was combat armor wrapped around a few dead bodies, and I got lucky that one of them was near a decline in the earth, allowing me to crouch, search his body, and get myself a suit of combat armor. Finally, something worked in my favor. I kept discovering locations until I got to North Vegas Square. There were quite a few people in there, and something about them bothered me. I think it was that they were alive. So I whipped out my grenade launcher and systematically annihilated everyone. Once they were no longer in the land of the living, I left and got back to work discovering locations around the Strip. I continued my campaign of carnage in Thorn. I then tried to kill someone with a shotgun, which was by no means easy. With my circular trip around the Strip almost complete, my last stop was Camp McCarran because I wanted to take one last shot at getting myself some NCR armor. The general idea is that I'd kill this trooper and his body would flop over onto the sandbags so that I'd be able to reach his body and snag the armor. Didn't really work out the way I'd hoped because it didn't work at all. Still carrying the stench of failure, I continued making my way back towards the Strip. The red roaches inside the Basin Creek building succumbed to my machete. I got into a brawl with a fiend and went inside Allied Technological offices to kill a bunch of giant ants. They've got a mean bite, but they go down in a few swings and yield a cool 25 experience per ant, making it an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I found another ant in a destroyed barn, guarding the entrance to an ant mound. My blinding genius was on full display as I went down into that hole. There was a mega ant, an ant queen some might say, and I decided in my infinite wisdom that the only way to kill her was with throwing spears. Because when you're using a Guitar Hero controller, throwing spears are just about the most effective weapon at your disposal. She was a tough old beast, taking all the spears I had and still coming back for more. With no more spears, I threw caution to the wind and started to throw hands. She fell before me. I exited the ant mound and made a beeline for the Strip. I really wanted to sleep on this inviting piece of cardboard that was on the ground, but I myself 200 more caps. With my pockets rattling like crazy, I went to Mick and Ralph to see about getting a fake passport. That fun little problem where I can't look down reared its ugly head again because Mick is sitting down. He stood up after a few minutes, told me that I'd need 500 caps to get my fake passport, and I was 72 caps short. I'd exhausted all other options. This was the only way I was getting into the Strip. So once again I quit the game, messed with the controls to let me sell a few things and buy a passport, then quit the game to reset my controls back to their previous horrible state. I'd gone through hell, but I finally arrived on the Strip to exact revenge on Benny. Because I didn't want to risk having to kill Benny with my bare hands and his body landing on the ground out of reach, I pulled out my grenade launcher and blew up the chairman loitering around the top's entrance. I had to be careful with Benny. I needed him to die on the stairs so I'd be able to ransack his corpse. It took some trial and error, but I bopped him good, took back what I decided was mine a few minutes ago, and went to get Yes Man's questline started because his is the easiest of the 4 options. Inside the Lucky 38, I went ahead and got my payment from Mr. House before I invaded his personal space by forcing my way into his basement. Once I took him out of the equation, I leveled up, raised medicine up to 99 since speech has been at 100 for a while, met up with Yes Man at the tops again to let him know that Mr. House's time was up and his time was now, and began the process of meeting the various factions spread across the Mojave. The White Gloves were up first because I despised them the most. I got a few good chops in on the greeter and covered my machete in his life. Then a bunch of bullies ganged up on me and killed me because aiming a plasma rifle in this nightmare is difficult. Round 2 saw me killing the greeter again, then go for Mortimer and finally Butters. For some reason, I used my shotgun on the lunatics that were crowding me, but with my work in the Ultralux done, I left and gambled with my life at Gamora. This one's easier, just refuse to hand over your weapons, fire a few shots, and you're done. The 3 remaining factions, the Brotherhood of Steel, Boomers, and Grey Khans, are all significantly further away. I decided to go deal with the Boomers first because it's pretty much a straight shot to the northeast with not a lot in the way. I thought it'd be rough navigating through their bombardment, but it wasn't too bad. There are a few spots where you can go hide to avoid their artillery fire, and there's enough time between the rounds that you can get to cover even with a Guitar Hero controller. Just like with the Omertas at Gamora, all you really need to do is make contact with the Boomers, and then you can decide to ignore them. After I dealt with the Boomers, I set my sights on the Great Khans. There's a road to the west of the strip that runs south towards Red Rock Canyon, but fiends and other baddies infested in several locations, so I took to the Rocky Mountains to stay as safe as possible. It's surprisingly manageable to make your way up and over them without jumping, a little tedious, but not difficult. I avoided the Bighorners, arrived in Red Rock, spoke to Regis, and made a groundbreaking discovery that nearly gave me an aneurysm. I can't move the crosshairs on the world map up or down, but I can move it side to side, and it doesn't need to be directly on a location to let me fast travel to it. If you're close enough, it'll be the selected area, so I can make my way south via fast traveling by picking locations that are just slightly further south than my current location. This is why I discovered all those locations earlier. Actually, it wasn't. It was just dumb luck that I happened to do that in this video. My next objective was Hidden Valley to meet the Brotherhood of Steel. Getting there requires that I pass through Deathclaw territory again. The small upside is that this time I'm a bit more comfortable with the controls, allowing me to get to the bunker without any significant issues. The Brotherhood are freaks who make all newcomers strip naked to meet their leader, who then puts an explosive collar on them. How sick does a person have to be to put an explosive collar on someone before telling them to go somewhere to do something? I had a slight problem getting the Elder to speak because he was sitting. I got lucky and pickpocketed him. He caught me but didn't go red. I took advantage of the small window of time he gave me and spoke to him about my mission. I knew that the quest he gave me could be handled easily with a high speech skill, so I left and was told that my belongings were in a chest. Huh, that's an interesting development. All my stuff is on the floor in a box that I can't access. In any other playthrough, I might just ignore it and press forward, but not this one. I'm not going to the Hoover Dam without any armor, weapons, or stim packs while using a Guitar Hero controller. I backtracked a bit to just before I got abducted by the Brotherhood and left the bunker to continue my plan. The solution is actually rather simple. Get Veronica as a companion so I can enter the bunker with my clothes on and not have to have my belongings stuffed into a box. She's at 188 Trading Post, which is a short journey north along a road, and on my way there, a few things happened. The first was that I came across Neil's dead body, which I could actually loot. He had a rebar club that I used in place of my old machete. I discovered the El Dorado substation and entered a field of ants. These ants are all feisty, like they've got ants in their pants or something. Despite their ferocity, they don't stand a chance against my rebar club. Even the biggest of the ants goes down in a few swings. After a brief conversation, I gave the Lonesome Drifter a wallop, and because I was curious, I went to Boulder City to see if Jessup has any unique dialogue options, now that Benny's dead. He doesn't. I convinced him to give up the hostages and leave peacefully, and traveled to 188 Trading Post, where I got Veronica as my companion and used that fast travel technique I mentioned earlier to get to the bunker again. Veronica got me in, my interactions with the Brotherhood were complete, and I slowly fast traveled my way back up north to the strip. With almost everything ready, I spoke to Yes Man again and had one last thing to do. As I left the Lucky 38, I noticed that Veronica was still standing in place. This is because companions automatically wait when you go to the penthouse. And guess what? I can't get her back. My limited inputs only allow me to choose 2 of the 8 options on the companion wheel, neither of which are the wait follow toggle. Alone again, I headed back to El Dorado where I mopped the floor, with all the NCR soldiers guarding the exterior of the building, went inside, powered up the substation, returned to the strip, the tops specifically since there's a bed in Benny's room that I can actually sleep in, slept, and returned to Yes Man again. The end is near. All that's left is to take part in the second battle of Hoover Dam. It's worth mentioning that I've taken the toughness perk twice in my travels, upping my base damage threshold to 6. I've also still got the combat armor, making the nerf darts fired by Centurions nothing to be concerned about. Inside the offices, I quickly dispatched of 2 armor-clad NCR soldiers, installed Yes Man's override chip, and started clearing out a few of the Legion and NCR soldiers inhabiting the offices as I made my way towards the power flipper. Also, Veronica is back, because of the way the game handles this endgame section. I pressed the switch, overrode the generators, and it did too good of a job because it crashed my game. It worked the second time though. The robot, Veronica, and I went back outside and began the final push towards the Legate's camp. I tried once to take on a group of Centurions, but they overwhelmed me pretty violently. Upon reloading a save, I accidentally smashed Veronica with my club. I successfully fought off a few Centurions and entered the Legate's camp. The first Praetorian went down after 2 swings. The next few tried to take advantage of me with their powerful fists, but it didn't work as well as they thought it would, and I was finally face to face with the Legate. Since the beginning, I've been planning for a diplomatic victory, and for once my plan worked out exactly as intended. General Oliver arrived. I told Yes Man to throw him off Hoover Dam, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with only a Guitar Hero controller. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Fallout New Vegas with a Guitar Hero controller. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Frank of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day. No matter what you do, Fallout New Vegas always begins on October 19th, 20 minutes to midnight in the year 2281. In your typical 20-hour playthrough, you might finish the game in mid to late November. But what if you woke up after being shot in the head and the doctor told you you've only got 1 day left? Would you make the most of it, or would you ask yourself, can you beat Fallout New Vegas in 24 hours? When I say 24 hours, I'm talking about 24 hours according to Fallout New Vegas' in-game clock. Time works differently in Fallout New Vegas compared to our world. The default time scale used by the game is 30, so every minute of real time is 30 minutes in-game, which theoretically gives me a mere 47 minutes to beat New Vegas. I'll come back to why those 47 minutes are imaginary in a little bit. I used a mod to keep the clock on screen all the time, and the timer begins at 23:41 p.m. The next time you see that time on screen, I'll be dead, or the challenge will be over. My special stats are all based around getting through New Vegas as quickly as possible. There are no restrictions to weapons or skills or movement. For a single day, I can do anything I want. Timer's gone though, it comes and goes as it pleases. Put another way, time stops in dialogue when you're picking skills, when the pit boys open, when you're loading into a new area, during mini games like hacking or picking a lock, and even, believe this, when the game's paused. I'd love to say this is a normal speed run, but it just isn't. Before leaving in the dead of night, daylight savings time struck again, thrusting me towards 8 a.m. at breakneck speed. I anticipated going through this challenge multiple times, and I won't cheat by using console commands to change the time. The new start time is 8 a.m. on the button. Trust me, by the time we're finished, this will be inconsequential. You won't have time to worry about your toothache when you're being tossed into a volcano. Those of you who've been around here for a while have a general sense of what my intentions are regarding completing New Vegas as quickly as possible. Yes Man's ending is the quickest, and the quickest route to his heart is through Cazador Canyon. With time still being my most important commodity, I made sure to waste none of it by killing the Cazadors and their families in the alley. Their experience pumped me up to level 2, and I'd need all that experience if I was going to get speech up to 100 later on. I hung out at Bonnie Springs for a little while longer, after I impressed myself by using a grenade launcher to launch a machine gun towards me. Left a little after 10, zapped the bighorners for more experience, hotkeyed my armor so I'd only have to wear it in combat. You move faster when you're not wearing armor. Discovered Red Rock and immediately tested the fast travel system. Fast traveling takes up valuable time that can't be wasted on frivolous nonsense. It takes an hour of time to go from Red Rock to Good Springs via the mouse button fast travel combo move, but on foot, you can't even reach the dead bighorners before 45 minutes has flown by like it was only 22 seconds. Not that it mattered, the strip was my goal. The fiends, pissed about my harassment of their cows, burned me alive and cut off my leg. By the mid-afternoon, I'd made my way out to the field shack camped out by Nellis. I never had the minutes to spare to stop and buy more medical supplies. I couldn't put any extra points into medicine because there are no spare points. And sleep? Idiot. So, what did I do? I carried George to the boomers as a show of good faith. Peace between nations, some other second thing, all that great shit. Losing my Georgie was worth it, only so I could learn that tossing him was far faster than dragging his body. After surviving their bombardment, I thought maybe just this once I could do something stupid. Why talk to the guy at the gate when you could sneak into their base and assassinate their leader? I assumed, because of advanced age, that she wouldn't fare well against my spiked punches to her fanny. She weathered the blows better than I expected, so I took off my gauntlets and dropped a stim pack to even the odds, but the doesn't play fair. She ran away momentarily, tipping the odds in her favor, as the shock of her maneuver left my guard down enough for me to get both my arms broken in one move, forcing me to flail my wet spaghetti noodle arms against her until she died. With 2 factions down and no discovered locations near the strip, I spent 40 minutes traveling to the underpass in style, and another 90 minutes making my way to the strip itself, where of course I couldn't afford to get in. However, what most of us in Mitten Squad didn't know was that you don't need money to get in if you're willing to kill. The Securitrons at the gate all have keys locked inside their Mitten compartments. Speaking of killing, a good bit of it happened at the strip. I began with the Omertas at Gamora, used the spike knuckles on them until Shrek showed up and made me sad when I killed him, played grenade catch with the white gloves in the Ultralux, made sure to kill Chauncey for eating people, could have reached out and poked Mortimer's eye out with my spear, threw it instead, missed, entered the tops, and as the minute hand approached the part of the clock to represent midnight, I approached Benny. Lacking any charismatic charm, I failed to convince Benny to head upstairs for some alone time, tripped off the stairs, impregnated his head with a spike. He lived, believe it or not, just not for very much longer. Then I ran up to his hotel room for unknowable reasons. Swank followed me up there, as did everyone else. Luckily for them, I had love and hate and bad jokes to go around. At level 7, I still hadn't put any points into speech because I'm not relying on speech ever in this challenge. I spoke to Yes Man to get his wheel moving, met him over in the Lucky 38. I played catch with a gun in the basement by myself, thought, barrels hurt, maybe my next New Vegas video could be with only a barrel, and back upstairs, I arrived at the point of no return. 5 hours left. I didn't f*** up the Great Khans enough, still hadn't met the Brotherhood, and then there's the rest of the game. I failed. I did not beat Fallout New Vegas in one in-game day, but that's okay because I never wanted to. Round 1 is always the practice round, even if everyone, including me, agrees that it isn't. I learned a lot, knew what mistakes to correct, and reloaded the save to begin again. The big picture remains the same, Yes Man ending as quickly as possible. The special stats and skill setup are identical as well because the challenge starts at 8:01. After all that shit's been set in stone. I didn't consider for a second during the entirety of this challenge that using the Fallout 4 menu mod could have consumed valuable minutes since time usually stops when you're looting in New Vegas. Consider it a compromise for the 20 in-game minute difference between when the clock first showed up and the time I used as my start. Those 20 minutes are the dark horse of round 2. I considered slapping the dislike button on the way out of Doc Mitchell's birth canal after being misled about what I was getting into with this life, set off for Cazador country once again, this time not stopping to pet them with a grenade. Doing so would distract me enough that I make a mistake like falling backwards off a rock and cracking my dome in half. That's what the hat was for. I did f*** with the jackals again, this was a neat kill, and arrived at the blown apart house a whopping 20 minutes earlier than I did in round 1. To deal with the cons, you've got 2 choices. Talk to one specific con, or kill their leaders. You know what I did. I know what I did. This bitch came up to me with a sword and a shield. I had a gun. I had to assert my dominance. In the last go-around, I never touched the Brotherhood of Steel. They're not conveniently anywhere near anywhere I wanted to go. So I took a shortcut across the desert through Fiend territory towards Hidden Valley. The path there led me to Camp McCarran, where I borrowed an NPC soldier's uniform on the off chance I'd feel like riding the monorail later, abducted Veronica, came dangerously close to considering using the use any ammo in any gun glitch from my last New Vegas video, decided against it, got into a boxing match with a lobster in Scorpion Gulch, which is a horrendously unpleasant place to be when you're without cloth. Inside the Valley bunkhouse, Veronica predictably made my life harder by refusing to open the door like a good tool. As I've said all along, time is rare. I couldn't stand around waiting for her to walk to the door. I knocked her out with a bullet, tossed her over by the door, and waited for her to wake up like a gentleman. With the Brotherhood of Steel now an afterthought, I used 3 of my remaining hours to travel out to Nellis. Veronica assumed when I knelt down with a gun that I was proposing I kill her. It wasn't her I was proposing to kill. Pearl passed away at 12:41 a.m. A few hours later, in the wee hours of the morning, I hit the strip and took Benny's life as well. Got the platinum chip, assumed I took care of anyone worth caring for in the Gomorrah casino, raised speech up to 100, ended the reign of Robert House, and wiped out who I could at the Ultralux but injured myself in the process. Running low on time, ammo, medical supplies, and functioning limbs, I ran for the gift shop, was accidentally rude to Sarah, and she didn't have any medicine for me. Out of options, I ran for Yes Man. The entirety of the Tops followed me up to Benny's room, paid me back in full for everything I'd done to them, ending round 2. At this point, it should be clear that you cannot beat Fallout New Vegas as Jack Bowser by using conventional means. So, we get unconventional. Round 3. Back to 801. To prove how different things will be this time, I began by putting Doc Mitchell's head on the wall. A tumbleweed killed the vibe I had going on the way to the Chet store. I'd gone there for a 357 revolver and a handful of bullets. For technical reasons I won't attempt to explain, you can use some weapons in New Vegas to soar through the sky like some sort of winged creature that doesn't exist. To do this, buy a weapon that reloads 1 bullet at a time like a revolver and at least 2 kinds of bullets. You need at least 3 bullets in total. Every time I had 2 bullets and tried to do this, I got punched by an infinite reload animation that overpowers the pause button. To do this glitch, hotkey the revolver, equip it, and start walking. Double tap the button to swap ammo types and bring up the Pip-Boy as soon as you can, while still holding W to walk forward. Unequip the revolver, put the Pip-Boy down, and take to the sky. But be careful, any sloped surface can and likely will send you up beyond the clouds. But the expectations of fall damage can be subverted by quick saving and quick loading just before touching back down on solid ground. This one teensy tiny trick saved more than an hour of in-game time getting to Red Rock, giving me time to kick back for a minute and play exterior decorator while also searching in my peripheral vision for Regis. He was inside the Great Khan clubhouse, waiting with a sword and shield for some dipshit with a spear to come and try his luck against him. My victory came at a price. I had Papa Khan's sunglasses, but I was also 1 hour ahead of schedule. Too much of a good thing, as they say. In addition to using the power of flight to fly, you can also use it to reach places you simply couldn't on foot, like the desolate barren wasteland that exists in spaces Todd didn't intend to be seen by your eyes. I played every card I had all at once, 52 pickup style, when I got stuck atop a telephone pole while being pelted with bullets. I had no runway. I could only hope I achieved liftoff midair. Then I spotted the king of ramps, the piece de resistance, not that cement, the seesaw. I think I'd have been happier if I'd slammed nose first into the monkey bars like I did as a children. I told you what Todd did as a preemptive warning about this section. The sands near Black Mountain are a dangerous place for my kind. The walls are camping with active camo, but I'd gotten what I wanted all along. I was safe from Kowalski. I desecrated his rock and flew away before I could hear him start sobbing. That's how I got stuck. I needed a vantage point to watch both him run to me and Veronica wonder where I went. Just in time for a late dinner, I descended down the stairs to the Brotherhood's bunker to knock them off my checklist. Flew away, and couldn't have landed in the Death Claw part of town any worse than I did. It's raining, it's pouring, my poor feet are wet, and not even an hour later I lost an hour of progress because I gorged on disillusionment. It had to be the glitch not working anymore. It couldn't be me f***ing it up because I couldn't rage quit a game and watch a tutorial for something I just spent the last hour perfecting. Back in my calm down pants, I got scammed by this ramp, used an NPC uniform I scavenged to ride the rail into the strip, and stormed the Tops at around 9ish. Not right at 9, every second counts, but I still value public perception among make-believe characters above the success of my own idea. I didn't bother meeting Yes Man. Should you eliminate the house before talking to him, you'll only have to go up there the one time. Nothing wacky or unpredictable happened inside the Ultralux. I turned an angel into a Cyclops in Gomorrah. Apparently they employ ghouls among their ranks. Mr. House thanked me for delivering his gift, invited me down to his basement, and I made the mistake of doing nothing for an hour. The demonstration itself took an hour as well. That's almost 20% of my total time gone if you're bad at math. I killed House at about 150, told Yes Man to meet me at the Lucky 38, he popped himself into the mainframe, and I started to wonder if I had time to save the president. It turns out, I didn't. Somewhere in the madness of stealing the sunglasses off Papa Khan's dead head, I failed to speak to Regis. Nothing short of becoming a fighter jet would get me to Red Rock in time. Fast traveling out there ate up 2 hours, so that's another 2 hours, which gets us to 7:15. And I went through Camp McCarran. I can't just fast travel to the Strip's North Gate. For a record-setting 3rd time today, I failed to beat Fallout New Vegas as Jack Bauer. Now, in attempt number 4, with all the knowledge of my forefathers behind me, the real game begins. My final run. All bullshit is allowed. Glitches, exploits, cheese. Only console commands are off limits. I ransacked the doctor's house for an assortment of medical supplies. Bought a .32 pistol from Chet thinking it would be like a .357 revolver. Chet wouldn't make eye contact with me after that embarrassment. I made eye contact with Easy Pete's revolver, took aim, he called out for himself, I snagged his gun and fled the scene. Landed on the other side of the forbidden door. I don't know what mod this is from, but I don't have the mental fortitude to relive Squidward's dream level right now. I pulled out the binoculars to see if my ears were playing tricks on me, rolled into Red Rock Canyon, spoke to Regis, and marked a waypoint for Hidden Valley. Veronica is too far gone for me to reach her. She's a useful tool, but completely unnecessary to get inside. Not going to 188 Trading Post to get her meant I could spend a while stuck in an invisible hole with these rocks. Near Black Mountain, I stopped giving a f*** about Deathclaws. I can't outrun them, but I am faster than them. To enter Hidden Valley without Veronica and without a level 100 lockpick skill, I returned to the reliable method of cheating by quick saving and quick loading in rapid succession to clip through the door. New Vegas doesn't accept that as a possibility. Ramos assumes you got in there the natural way, and you're home free. 2 factions down in less than 6 hours. I bought grenade rifle grenades, a railroad rifle, and a ripper from a robot, put on my only hat, blew past George, said goodbye to Pearl, and graced the strip with my terrifying presence yet again. Offed Benny, walked with my eyes wide and my jaw on the floor at the sight of being on the strip with Benny dead and the sun still out. With House very dead, I ODST'd down from the great ramp in the sky, melted Marjorie, I rippered and teared things apart in Gamora, did the yes man and used the railroad rifle against the chairman. It's awful, it's a Fallout 3 gun, I don't know why I have this. After informing Yes Man that I exist and he could meet me at the Lucky 38, I went on over there and Victor welcomed me to Vegas. Mr. House died hours ago. Victor is supposed to shut down after House dies. That festered in the back of my head while Yes Sir uplinked himself and I rambled about all the people I don't care about. Finally, real, tangible progress has been made. Unfortunately for me, I hadn't discovered the El Dorado subbase yet, nor any location near it. Traveling out there robbed me of 2 hours. The return trip did as well. 3 hours, 20 minutes left. I'm airborne. I overshoot the gate in my enthusiasm. Run for the light, but it's only paper mache. A set piece in a better man's story. What's weird is I didn't need to hurt the robots to get back into the strip, but I couldn't fast travel directly to the gate. That's good game design. I've got a good handful of time left, and the second battle of Hoover Dam begins at 2 p.m., 4 hours past my bedtime. Before jumping to any absurd conclusions, I paused the challenge, waited until after 2 p.m., then started the battle again to see if I'd be placed back in time at 2 p.m., and New Vegas crashed. Then I waited until around 8, let's did this, and it's 2 p.m. again, meaning, once and for all, you most likely cannot beat Fallout New Vegas in one in-game day. But after running through this enough times to put Fallout New Vegas Speedrunner in my Twitter bio, I had to reach the end of the game with some degree of success. I'd babysat my parents' house in the weeks prior to this challenge. I went through a bunch of my old stuff, my 8-step plan for getting an Xbox 360 for my birthday, complete with 12-step backup plan. I found the year my soul fled my body, but more importantly, my Calc 1 notebook containing formulas for adding time to time. I had 3 hours and 21 minutes left on the clock when I spoke to Mr. Yes. He drags me to the dam at its most busy at 2 p.m., giving me until 5:21 p.m. to confront the legate and save the day. The top side of the dam is a straight curved shot to the first tower. Inside, I didn't bother using the revolver to fly through the corridors, partly because it's a confined space, partly because the NCR had their entire flock waiting for me after I overloaded their generator. A storm rolled in while we were in the tower, setting the stage for me to straddle my handgun and ride it to the legate's camp to confront Linus. We agreed to postpone the fight for the time being. One guy didn't get the memo. His firing animation upset me almost as much as lining up this jump over the fence but forgetting to jump. After killing the nameless one, I flew over the gate, and walking into it from behind won't trigger the cutscene with General Oliver. With only an hour left, I clipped into the gate by save scumming through the gate. Oliver's guy gave me an ocular pat down, I had Oliver tossed from the dam, and did not beat Fallout New Vegas in 24 in-game hours. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server by going to mitten.land. Follow me on Twitter @MittenSquad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day. Ordinary gamers play games with their hands. Some people play games with their feet, some use their voice, but I wanted to do something different. Something much more traumatizing than anything I've done before. Can you beat Fallout 3 with your eyes? To play Fallout 3 with nothing but my eyes, I spent $230 on an infrared eye tracker, the Tobii Eye Tracker 5, and mounted it to my iMac with my own proprietary adhesive strip. The trash it came with didn't stick, and I got lucky that I couldn't find my superglue. The Tobii company has software that lets the eye tracker work in a handful of games, but none of them are Fallout, and it's not full-fledged control. It's looking around in-game by turning your head, not complete PC control with only your eyesight. Windows 10 has some eye control accessibility options too, but those don't work in-game either. For that, I downloaded Project Iris. This program turns your entire monitor into a touchscreen for your vision. It's wild. Iris lets you map any key on the keyboard to a box on screen. The eye tracker's 4 sensors track your pupils at all times using infrared light, and when they sense you've looked at the box, the key is pressed virtually. That allowed me to map most of the useful keys to boxes on screen. The controls I had on screen and their layout changed over time as I learned which keys were more useful than the others. The starter set should be fairly self-explanatory. WASD for movement, tab for the Pip-Boy, space to jump, the arrow keys move through dialogue, escape to pause, run is Q, that's the auto run button, look up is a lie, don't believe what it says. And with that, you're ready to witness the most mentally exhausting challenge I've ever done. To prove that I was, in fact, playing with my eyes and not a controller or a keyboard and mouse, I turned on the webcam. But it's been a while since you've seen me. The last time was in December, and that was well before my drinking got out of control. I'm a changed individual, and I wanted to prove that by doing the worst thing I could think of. I bought a seductive French maid outfit, and I gotta say, I make a women's medium look pretty damn good. Now, in my final form, the real game can begin, and I can begin to explain what a f***ing nightmare this challenge was. What I didn't realize before starting was how difficult it is to maintain complete and total control over your eyes for hours on end. They're constantly subconsciously darting around to take in your surroundings. You don't really think when you look from one side of the screen to the other, you just do it and it happens. But here, I can't look over to the left side of the screen, or the right side, or the top or the bottom without running the risk of accidentally pressing a button. Luckily, the toddler room is a free-for-all where nothing matters. I had all the time in the world to acclimate myself to the controls and realize I had no way to look down, bringing us to the first major bump in the road. Speed bumps come in pairs. Trust me, I will get f***ed again. Moving the mouse with your eyesight is not as simple as remapping a key on the keyboard. This is a mouse we're talking about, a living, breathing organism. There are complex mechanisms at play. The solution? Can you say, trackpad for your eyeball? That's exactly what I got, though at this juncture I was woefully unaware of what I'd just done. I spent minutes sitting there trying to fill out my special stats with that little bastard, unable to tell what was really happening. It had to be bigger. Mickey hit the medieval stretch machine. My playing field was substantially larger. I could now freely look around the world, solving all of my one-year-old problems. When I look at the upper left of the rectangle, my guy looks up and to the left. The other directions work the same way. Special stats are endurance to take the pain, that's it. I followed Dad into the future. The overseer gave me the gift of employment while I practiced being an owl by turning my head without moving my neck or body. Or maybe it was my eyes playing like Thomas the Tank Engine. With the Pip-Boy in my possession, inventory management becomes the latest slice of life to taunt me with its existence, knowing full well that it's not meant for me to have in this lifetime. I have the data management screen, not the useful stats, not the middle button with the guns and the armor and supplies. In theory, I could hypothetically hit that button with my iMouse. We'll come back to that. It's birthday time. That means conversation and pretending to thank the elderly. Navigating the dialogue menu and picking choices is thankfully pretty easy. Time stops in-game. It's real time, meaning my non-existent patience, that comes into play. If you thought for 1 second that I wouldn't find a way to skip through conversations, you're not a true Mitten Squad fan. Down in the basement, I obtained the BB gun from Dad and Jonas. Which brings us to combat. Combat is a no-no when your fire button doesn't work. You see, mapping mouse clicks to eye controls legitimately was the largest thorn in my side throughout this entire playthrough. And I don't mean that in a way that made the video better. It was annoying and made me mad. With the face cam, you'll probably see me get visibly annoyed. A lot. For the time being, I swept the problem under the rug and pretended it doesn't exist. I made the attack button the H key and the reload button the P key instead of them being the left and right mouse clicks. I aimed the BB gun. I fired the BB gun. I laid waste to the bug. Yes, aiming was an absolute motherfucker. Took a picture with Dad for the scrapbook, made sure to grab the bobblehead from his desk for good fortune in medical mishaps, stumbled into the classroom, and picked my skills. I can't heal or equip guns. I'm not picking locks or sneaking or doing the science. I took unarmed and whatever other two I happened to select by accident. Amada woke me up, and the end of the tutorial began. Melee combat in Fallout 3 is what you'd expect from a 13-year-old game. You don't have to sledgehammer your fist against their face to deal damage. Looking in their general direction, with them within arm's reach, is enough to score a hit. Stairs and sharp turns are an obstacle. Those two guards were using Tom Holden and his wife Mary as target practice. I saw Amada running towards the fire, a bold move when it's a hallway with two guys currently firing handguns indiscriminately at the end of it. The Vault Guard was the first boss fight to give me trouble. He's a moving target in the dark and I'm a cripple. It's not a fair fight to begin with. So, I ran to the Overseer to tell on him. One of the other goons popped the door and used me as a piñata. Getting the Overseer to hand me the keys to the vault door took a surprising few attempts. Maybe you didn't realize I added the quick save button in the upper left. Nothing will change me, I'm a quick save cuck till I die. I used that quick save button as a safety net that fell with me through the sky. With his keys, I continued getting my ass beat as I ran backwards towards the vault door, used the key to unlock the door, grabbed the password, and hit the goddamn terminal. The only way out of this hellhole is to land the mouse on that little red power button. It may be difficult to grasp why this is difficult. There's no indication on the virtual trackpad itself of where I'm looking. All I have is the mouse cursor that I can only watch with my peripheral vision because I have to control the mouse with my main vision. This broke me in about 3.5 minutes. Not record time, but still respectable. Believe it or not, I didn't put the maid costume back on the second day. I was wearing a sweater that I can never wear again because some f***ing idiot shrank it in the washing machine. Before continuing, I adjusted the controls slightly. Up and down are bigger and more prominent for the sake of redundancy. Quick save moved down to be easier to hit, and much more importantly and equally as disturbingly, I found out you can assign controls to winks. So from now until forever, I will be winking at you constantly. No lies, it's a little f***ed up that this is even possible. However, it does make combat substantially easier since I've basically got 2 free buttons now. Maybe the big G in the sky knew what he was doing with my face after all. Then came the terminal again. Time moves differently when you're in tremendous pain. The one person watching this who's given birth, you feel me. 6 straight minutes of trying to land the mouse on the power button. For a brief moment, I lightly brushed my hand against the devil's, considering grabbing the mouse to cheat, but I didn't. More minutes passed as the fun faded from my soul, second by second, until I hit my mark, right on the money. But I still can't click the mouse. This is the second speed bump. At that point, I deemed it a technology issue. Macros for mouse clicks can be assigned to the eye blinks. It's a limitation of the software that mouse clicks can't be positioned on screen like other keys. I couldn't place a left click button next to the walk button. Later, I had more issues with the macros, but we'll get to that. For now, I cheated by clicking the mouse a single time. I'm gonna spoil a bit of this video by telling you that cheat didn't matter in the long run because I ended up starting the entire challenge over later on. Outside, I soaked in the fresh air and rejoiced as the real game began. At level 2, I put the points into unarmed and speech. Speech was a mistake, I hit that by accident. Took Swift Learner for 10% more experience as my perk, and set off for Megaton in search of a bed. I barely made it out of the vault alive. I should point out now, I tried to keep my hands within the frame at all times, as proof I wasn't using a controller, as if I'm so talented that I could pull off faking this. Remember when I left an entire end card in the middle of my Halo Reach video? I'm not that good. In Megaton, I attempted to barter with Jenny Stahl, hoping for stim packs. Instead of going to the doctor for medical supplies, I went to the bathroom, got on my knees, and drank out of the toilet. I pulled an Inception and drank my full until I'd taken more radiation damage than I was comfortable with. Before setting off into the wasteland, I thought through my options. Following the story is a safe-ish option. There are no surprises. It's very doable. Or I do a little bit of bullshit and head straight for a little lamplight to use speedrunning tactics to skip 90% of the game. I didn't want to spend any more time here than was necessary. F*** my dad, he can rot in the simulation, I'm going to play with the kids. At least, that was the plan until I got hit by an alien. In an act of astounding stupidity, I didn't disable all the mods I had installed for a different video. Trust me when I say the only 2 mods that had a positive effect were the first-person camera and the refined inventory UI mods. That is to say, the benefits were purely cosmetic. The aliens shouldn't be here, I used a console command to freeze time and disable them. If you bitch about that in the comments now, you're gonna look real stupid in about 2 minutes. I made a friend not far from Vault 101. He betrayed me immediately. I accepted my fate, went down swinging, and dropped dead. I tried a different route, got set on fire that time, and used the auto run button to alleviate some of the pressure on me. There's still some pressure. I have to use the steering wheel while he drives blind, and accidentally glancing over the walk button will stop me in my tracks. That happened consistently enough that it still makes me mad watching it back. The memories are still fresh. This gameplay happened like 40 hours ago for me writing this. With the auto run key, I was able to make it across a good chunk of the map without issue. I could focus on avoiding danger and making it to Smith Casey's garage. Dad's down in the basement, but I'm not here for him. There's a free bed behind the counter. All I had to do to use it was clear out the critters infesting the station. A mole rat, a single rat roach, another mole rat broke my favorite leg. I took out 2 more down the stairs and slept for hours. I only had to do it once to restore my health and heal my limbs. I earned that nap, and daytime is much more pleasant to watch. Lamplight's not too far from the garage. I took a few hits, but I survived without any serious injuries. Another day passed. The Santa hat remains. The blink commands have been swapped over to quick save and quick load. I could think of no other way to abuse the quick save quick load exploit to clip through the wall. It's easy to pull off, but you need movement while saving and loading, and being able to look around with the iPad while moving provides insane value. Plus, I'm still only using my eyes. Exiting the game to change what happens when I look at the walk button will remove the ability to use whatever key it replaced. There's a delicate balancing act here. Sure, I could have added more buttons, but why would I do that? That's effort. Having pulled off the wall clip, I made my way through Little Lamplight to the gate guarding Murder Pass, saved and loaded through the upper left corner of the gate, and entered Murder Pass. For some reason, all the f***ing mutants had fat men. They hit me with mini nukes over and over again. I knew it had to be done. I had no way to use any healing supplies I happened to have on me, and I'd have to make it all the way through Murder Pass and Vault 87. I didn't see that happening. So I started over. Nobody's ever done this shit before, and if I'm the one to do it, I'm gonna do it right. We can go through the vault a little quicker this time around. Special stats are for maximizing unarmed damage. Unarmed is conveniently from endurance. Intelligence for extra experience points when leveling up. Luck for critical hits and a small boost to all skills. Agility for why not, and it's on to the birthday party. I've gotten far better at playing compared to the practice round. Moving around the vault is child's play. I'm so good I went into the settings to remap controls with my eyes. The only time I touched the keyboard was to swap a single key. I don't consider that cheating. If it was, my decision to use VATS can be considered a punishment. Some minutes ago, I planted seeds in your mind about the problems I'd have with macros. It's time to harvest. See that enjoyment? It's not gonna last. 1 second. Skills are unarmed, speech, medicine. There are a variety of macros available for blinking an eye. Click and hold the left mouse button, click and let go, click the right mouse button, move the mouse cursor. Mouse controls are all exclusive to blinking. You saw it work with the Rad Roach just now. Stupid watch, you make me look bad. You saw it work with the Rad Roach just now. Blinking is detected in the software. Assigning a left blink to the left click and a right blink to the right click works on the desktop, but they were incredibly unreliable in-game. I could sit there for minutes winking at the cute police officer I've frozen in time and not once be able to select him as a target in VATS. Why was I all in on VATS? Because it would make fighting so much easier and therefore makes the challenge less stressful. There's irony in here somewhere. I can taste it. I quit the game, attempted to rework the controls, and made just enough progress with them to become a force to be reckoned with. Many blinks are required to get one hit in on a single target. For context, it took me more than 15 minutes to kill those few rad roaches in the atrium, take out the guards protecting the overseer, and get his key. Before leaving, I looted some ammo and armor for the road. You never know what might happen, and reunited with my old friend, the terminal. Slowly, steadily, I moved the mouse over towards the power button. Did not get annoyed at all. Never. Not once. I quit the game again, came back, like seconds later, and f***ing nailed it. From there, I escaped the vault as was my plan, dumped every point into unarmed, kicked a mole rat in the snout, and began my journey to the littlest light in the east, avoiding all the animals along the way. Soon enough, I found myself at the garage again. Inside, I dealt with the mole rats to clear a spot to sleep. My least favorite leg got broken, and I did the big crybaby maneuver of playing with the controls off camera. One hat later, Fallout 3 stopped working completely. The main menu's off limits to me now. I strayed too far from the sun. It doesn't really get any worse than this. I just kinda stew in this level of mild inconvenience at my job for another 45 minutes or so. What only a select few of you know is how deep down I live for this. I'd been playing this wrong since the very beginning. All that macro stuff, a complete waste. I flat out missed the mouse click option in the eye settings. I didn't see it. Oops. That epiphany brought about a kind of emotion I rarely feel. I needed a hug. I didn't get one, so I reached out to the memory of a good dog and held on tight. I loved that animal so much. Moments later, I regained my composure, played around with the different settings until I landed on a combo that worked significantly better, but still not perfectly. Individual blinks don't perform a single mouse click. They click and hold the mouse. In VATS, it's flawless. Outside of VATS, it continuously attacks or blocks, depending on the eye, until I blink again. It's a toggle of the mouse button in combat and a mouse click in VATS. That's how you should think of it. Now that I can actually defend myself, I stand a chance of surviving any situation the game throws at me. With that newfound power, I went down to the basement to save my father. He's stuck in a recliner and can't get himself out of it. To perform this kind of dangerous rescue mission, I'd have to not only take my clothes off, I'd have to put new clothes on, because you can't enter Tranquility Lane if you're not wearing a Vault 112 jumpsuit. I did the unthinkable. I used nothing but my mind to line up the mouse, winked at the screen, and was in the Items tab. Weapons, armor, stim packs, a new world lifted its skirt and flashed me. I took out the bat, used it to hammer a nail into the unarmed playthrough coffin. My fists and all those points I put into unarmed. I'm using melee weapons now. Hopped into the chair and traveled to Tranquility Lane. Dr. Stanislaus Braun set up an abandoned house in the village where he can store his garbage. Leftover bottles, used cinder blocks, Trudy's broken radio, and a few other odds and ends. Touch them in the correct order, and you'll reveal a terminal that can be used to summon forth the Chinese communists. Activating them comes easy now. I moved through the menus like a hot knife through butter. Landing on the power button didn't take too long, certainly far less time than the others. The heroes of Sovngarde arrived to set the Vault Dwellers free. I put on one of the suits of Vault armor I'd stolen from home, and told my father to go do whatever he planned on doing in his life without me. At level 3, I dumped the points into melee weapons, spent several minutes trying to get out of Vault 112, and left to keep my little dream alive. No issues getting there. It's pretty much a straight shot from the garage to Little Lamplight. I used the quick save quick load exploit to clip through the wall and insert myself into Murder Pass. Stop, right now. Think back to my past Fallout 3 videos. Can you remember a certain bug that always plagued me when I entered Little Lamplight in this manner? I'd forgotten about it too, until this specific moment. Little Lamplight's filled with kids, and Bethesda, in their infinite wisdom, decided that you can't kill kids in Fallout 3. To ensure you don't get any funny ideas, the Disable Player Controls command is triggered from behind the scenes as you load into Little Lamplight. You can't draw your weapons. Naturally, when you manipulate Fallout 3 with glitches, it stops working properly. The inability to draw weapons extended into Murder Pass. Unfortunately, I cannot show you that because I forgot to hit record after I bypassed the gate. The only evidence I had of the torment I suffered through was a handful of saves I made in those 23 minutes. I'd made it all the way to Fox before realizing what I'd done. I almost quit the challenge right there. The upside of my failure is that you can see a master class in eyeball-based movement. The super mutants barely touched me. I took some damage here and there, but for the most part I did good. In Vault 87 proper, I visualized the layout of the vault in my head, pictured each corner, each mutant, each doorway and stairwell that stood between me and my goal. The green bullies pushed me into a corner, started shooting me to death. I accepted my fate, got bored waiting to die, and reloaded a save by hand. In my inventory were 12 stim packs, 2 Advil, a stimulant, and a soda. The stim packs would be powerful enough to restore my health bar almost twice, so I have options and room to breathe. For now. The difficulty's been set to very easy since the dawn of time. My endurance is maxed out. I can take some punishment. Down in the test labs, I activated the fire alarm to release Fox from solitary confinement, faced the hallway of death with the most stoic expression I could muster, and hunkered down in Fox's room, hoping, praying, that he will kill all the monsters on the other side of the glass. The magnificent bastard did it. Fox saved my life and promised to give his in return if it came to it as a thank you for setting him free. He cleared the way to the Gek, retrieved it for me, allowing me to get abducted by Nobark Noonan and taken to the Enclave's base for questioning. Guess who quit again? Day I don't know, let's say 4, began with a return to form. This adventure began with a maid costume, it has to end with a maid costume. I got 2 level ups from advancing this far in the story, and put all those points into medicine and melee weapons, put on my armor, and battled the Enclave, because I failed to convince the police officer I was his equal. I did get a sick time freeze as he burned off one side of my face with his laser pistol. The Enclave soldiers themselves aren't too tough to fight off one at a time. 3 bashes with the bat and they drop to the floor. Agility being at 8 replenishes action points in between confrontations, due to how long it takes me to go anywhere. Closer to the president's chambers, I was on the receiving end of a Ripper attack. Now the Ripper is a special tool. The bat has to be swung over and over again to deal damage. The Ripper though, just stick that out there, squeeze the trigger, and anything it touches gets torn apart. It also does 3 times more damage than the bat, meaning Enclave soldiers die in a single VATS attack. You'd think this would make the rest of Fallout 3 a cakewalk. I had other ideas. Taking individual items from a container or a body or when bartering is tricky because of where I place the buttons on screen. Enter takes any item I've selected, but E backs out of the interface entirely, and the up button messes with the selection process. As I looted the bodies for medical supplies and the Ripper, I just took everything they had, which, in turn, made me over-encumbered. I was okay with that, to be honest. A slower movement speed does me no favors in combat. Outside of combat, the entire game becomes easier to control. It's not as frantic and crazy. I didn't have to make split-second eye decisions in the heat of battle. Up the stairs, I met with the president, whispered a little something into his ear to burn his paradise to the ground, took his virus, and went on my way. Eden still thinks I'm on his side, so the turrets and sentry bots on patrol still come to my aid as the soldiers loyal to Colonel Autumn attempt to end me. The only pickle I found myself stuck in involved a pair of soldiers with heavy weapons and a poorly timed quick save. Unwilling to use any of my remaining stim packs to heal an injury caused by stupidity, I reloaded a save and went even slower in my second escape. After surviving by doing nothing, I emerged outside, where Fox was mowing down the filth. Not me, I'm not filth. According to the email sent to every tenant in my apartment complex after my relapse, I'm a ruckus. But that was then, this is now. I'd been a good boy, at this moment, for 2 months and 7 days, so I got a treat. Fox joined the party. He didn't ease the burden. He lifted the beast off the ground and carried it around his neck for an impressive amount of time. Remember, I'm over-encumbered. I can't fast travel, and even if I could, I wouldn't risk using the map. It would take ages to line up the mouse on those tiny buttons. I set off on foot at a snail's pace for the Jefferson Memorial. Combat is irrelevant. Fox will take care of any threat before it has a chance to reach me. What he can't take care of is the incredible boredom that comes from walking across the entire f***ing wasteland. You might think, just hit the auto run button and distract yourself. Not an option, friend. Too many obstacles in the way. Look at all those rocks. It's a nightmare. Doing anything other than keeping my eyes locked in on the screen caused the controls to go all wonky. I sat there, doing nothing but watching the slow march towards the end for an hour. Around the 48-minute mark, I dumped all my heavy items into a dead mole rat Fox made for me. That dropped my weight down to 157 pounds and doubled my movement speed. Near the Citadel, I went in the water for the first time, swam ashore, and found myself at the bridge to the Jefferson Memorial. To get around the obstruction, I jumped over the railing and did a single quick load and was in. A couple Enclave soldiers were waiting inside. I, of course, did not attempt to engage. I left that to Fox and entered the rotunda to secure the purifier. Many quests have been done out of order, so not everything is where it should be. The door to the purifier's been sealed shut, and no bark is inside. Clipping through the wall into the purifier is the only way to get in. To finish the fight, you've got to talk to No Bark to prompt a scuffle. In the final moment, I did what I haven't done. I pulled out a gun, pointed it at No Bark, unloaded into him, and approached the console. The code 216 was entered, and against every single odd, I beat Fallout 3 with my eyes. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord by going to mitten.land. Follow me on Twitter @MittenSquad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.